So before we start, who in the audience is a gamer?
Yeah.
All right. Not as many as I thought, but still.
Pac-Man. Anyone? Astro. There you go. See?
So just so you know, the gaming market in 2024 was estimated to be at around $225 billion. It's quite a bit. Those would really enjoy that. There is an estimated 3 billion gamers in the world, right? And most of them are under 34. So for those who are not gamers, either you just aged yourself, or you need to revisit your priorities, because it's a space that is really important to watch for brands. Just even as human beings, this is something that is really with the new generations of consumers, of gamers. It is something that's becoming a huge topic. One of the big players, no pun intended, in this space is Epic Games. I've had the pleasure and the honor of working with the team for the past 2 years. Obviously, Unreal Engine is the foundation of the technology that powers a lot of the video games, but it also powers a lot of the immersive experiences, the interactive experiences that are built around the products that we sell, right? So I'm really excited to have this conversation today. My name is Safir Belali. I led digital innovation. My last role in the industry, which I left about 2 years ago, was leading digital innovation for VF Corporation, and looking ahead, looking at the horizon, and preempting the technologies that have the potential of redefining the way we bring product to the market. I was looking at gaming. I was looking at real-time visualization as one of the key unlocks. So I'm really excited to have this conversation. Can we play the video?
Creation, elevation, bending space and time, a whole new reality, a whole new reality. Welcome to the unknown. A whole new reality. A whole new reality. Let's go now, let's go now, let's go now, let's go
It's always fun to watch. And the 2025 sizzle reel will be shown at GDC very, very soon. So we are obviously, as stakeholders, as innovators, as digital creatives, our interest is in not only building great digital twins, great digital assets, making sure that they look exactly like the products they're supposed to represent, So visual fidelity is really important. But what's also important is that we have an opportunity to leverage and deploy these assets into experiences, into activations way beyond just the internal use, right? So this is why we're having these conversations here. But before we start, I just wanted to give each one of you 30 seconds to introduce yourself. Sayed, wanna start up?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for staying. I'm still being here this late day. And I'm sorry I sound like I've just smoked a packet of cigarettes, but it's been a long 2 days. My name's Sally Ann Howden. I work at Epic Games. Epic Games is fundamentally a software company. We develop software tools, though that software is used to make social interactive experiences, which is the new name for games, if you didn't get the memo. And I also come together with the ecosystem, this ecosystem of brands, retailers, and help them fully understand how they can leverage real time. That's the short version, so I'll stop.
Wow. Okay. 30 seconds. All right. Andrew Bjornson, former Senior Director of Digital Footwear and Apparel at Vans. My career's been in footwear product design. The last 3 years have been in the digital space. I'm also on the board of governors at Laguna College Art and Design in Laguna Beach. So kind of cool because they have an intersection of action sports, but they also have a really robust game art program. So yeah, I don't know. Good.
Stephen Smith. It's kind of funny they asked me to be part of this because as I was looking back through the history, the Instapump Fury that I did at Reebok was one of the earliest to be included in some of the games in Kotaku. You could pick the color of your Furies that the character could wear in the 90s. So it was interesting to see that. And even going forward into today, there's some funny Billie Eilish videos that she's wearing them too. So it's kind of funny to see that reach for like 30 years of this design being integrated into tech and games.
So Stephen, I really enjoyed your talk this morning. When you spoke about Shoemaker, when you spoke about Maya and the fact that we don't need to be able to do fly-throughs through our product. The tools, as we've been using this, as they've evolved to be more general tools for the creation of assets to more specific tools, but also the visual. So not only the asset creation tools, but also the visualization tools have come a long way, right? And we've learned from different industries. The other products have come. I remember at a certain point we were experimenting with DeltaGen. It was the promise of real-time visualization. There was a tool that was made for the automotive industry. It didn't really work for footwear and fashion. It just didn't, right? So can you tell us a little bit about how you've seen these tools evolve and what you're excited about?
I mean, it's interesting to think about gaming as part of it because it's very funny. At Reebok, they got us these $100,000 silicon graphic workstations to do the alias on, and in the end, it was too complex. So we actually networked and linked them and played Flight Simulator and fought each other across the building. So it ended up in gaming. But I think it's interesting as we create things in 3D with the digital design that we're creating these assets, so they already exist. So why wouldn't you then easily be able to transfer that to business partners like gaming, where people could wear the actual product or actually work together with you to design something, or designing them within the game to possibly create a special variation or something. So that evolution of the digital tool, I think, is critical, and it almost seems like they should intersect at some point, with sport and fashion and gaming. And there was always the thing. I think I like Beat Saber, for example, where you're up running around and everything. certainly makes sense to try to integrate it into more of the VR world. And if there was a way to modify or add on to your shoes these devices, it would be pretty cool, you know? I mean, the hardest thing is you don't want one to fail before the other after an initial investment in electronics versus your footwear. So if the footwear fails, you've lost your electronics, or if the electronic fails, you just have another pair of sneakers. So I think that how to integrate it all is one of the key challenges that we can do.
Awesome. Angel, you took over a few years ago at Vans. You took over the digital product creation team, the flashback. So we go way back. I started the team. I created the team back, I think, in 2011.
Yep.
So it's been really interesting, really fascinating to see kind of the evolution of that effort over there. What's your take on the tools, on the tool side?
Yeah, so really talented team coming from a lot of different industries: entertainment, Halloween masks, some footwear designers who came in through Moto. So everyone's able to use the tool that they're most comfortable with, and or leverage a type of product to that designer, because maybe a ZBrush is the best way to get something really organic and sculpty. I think seeing how they create is super exciting, but I also see the limitations of doing it from a visual tool standpoint, because of the practicality. Then how do you make the actual thing, and or the time in the season when you're doing it? Are you doing it for an initial line review? Are you doing it for a final line review? And the design itself is not yet finished, so you're rushing a 3D model to give the potential of what it might be. But even crafting it three-dimensionally can be rather labor-intensive. So we've seen that evolve in the space, and how then when people are interested, they start to pull and divide it, like, oh, can we get those for ecom yet? Can we do this? And you're like, no, this is still the concept one. This isn't the final one yet. So there's that challenge of how to evolve it through each stage. And in conversations today, even if you go create, make, and sell, maybe those are maybe they actually are divided. Maybe there really isn't this true pipeline of you can actually connect those in a 3D world. Maybe because the creative needs to be so loose and fluid, that needs to be one thing, like it is these days with pen, paper, Sketchbook Pro, Procreate, whatever it might be, and then hand it off. I know it seems idiotic and asinine to talk about that in a 3D and digital conference, but let the tools that are currently there be empowered by the people who have them, as opposed to the other way around. And Steven said, don't drop a lot of money on these things and then it doesn't get used, because then management goes, it's this idiotic. Either we get rid of the people or we get rid of the equipment, or maybe we get rid of both and we'll go back to the way we just did it before. But yeah, I
remember the conversations around pipelines and workflows was those were some of the more heated conversations, because we were trying obviously to be streamlining things and to make sure the pipeline was aligned. Everyone was aligned, but we understood very quickly that everyone came with their own set of tools, and it didn't matter how they created their asset if you could align standards to visualize them and to.
So I don't know if this is going to jump way ahead or not, but what we did do was we looked at what the tools were and the potential. I mean, just like that reel where you're like, holy crap, I'm seeing a vision of something that's further out. We created a substream, EXP or experiments, because everyone's doing it these days. But we had that so designers could go through this design phase and create what they want to create, because they saw an insight, they had a need, and they did it. So we don't have a traditional advanced concept team, but we wanted to do experiments for all. And if a designer came with a project that was interesting enough, or however we deemed it to be, this talks to this season's thing, let's launch that. We actually would pull that into the 3D team and create a full experience and showcase these things that were unbriefed, to say, the team is really talented, footwear designers, the 3D teams and all this stuff. We can do more than you think we can do. And then using twin motion even, and put stuff in and create these environments and these scenes that people can walk into, this experience in a room that's more than a showroom and has all this stuff happening, and just get people excited. It was very exciting.
Right, Sally-Ann, I love how things come together, the timing of things, because Epic Games announced yesterday that Crocs are now available in Fortnite as cosmetics. Can you tell us a little bit about kind of this new way of deploying assets into the Fortnite or into the gaming space? Because this was not possible just as footwear itself, right? Until
it is beautifully timed, isn't it? Look, this conference, this room shows that people are passionate about footwear. People are passionate about design. That doesn't stop in a digital space. That doesn't stop in a social space. And we've always known that in Fortnite, the cosmetic function, the cosmetic ability to turn up and choose your outfit has always been a huge part of the game, of the gameplay, of the ecosystem. Players love to have a closet full of who they want to be that day. And this new functionality, it just shows that technology evolves, gaming spaces evolve, the value, the opportunity is going to continue to increase. And us having this sort of new function where you can wear whatever shoe, whatever sort of footwear you want with your existing outfits, we've been blown away by how popular it's been. Like we always knew that there's a passion for footwear, and we've historically partnered with all the iconic footwear brands through full outfits, through full cosmetics. This allows us to be even more diverse and bring in even more communications of design. And the community, which is 900 million players, have loved it. It's been even more popular than we could have imagined. And so you can walk around in your Darth Vader or your Spider-Man outfit with Peely slippers, or your Jordan Nikes, or your Adidas, and Crocs now, which I personally am very excited by, and it will continue. We're very excited by the fact that we can have more and more diverse, bespoke expressions of footwear, and players can digitally identify who they are in new and exciting ways. And they absolutely want to. And it's not just about Fortnite and the Fortnite ecosystem. This goes across any sort of strong community-led social gaming space. People want to turn up how they want to turn up and digitally sort of develop their identity.
Yeah, ultimately it's about self-expression, and that carries from the real world into gaming, into virtual spaces, right? Stephen, we had a nice chat earlier on about some of the ways these digital tools can allow us to explore new paths for creativity and design. Whether it is digital technologies or embedded technologies or tools. You had shared an interesting story that I thought was interesting with the little device that you put on the skateboard.
Yeah, it was interesting. When I was at Adidas, I was doing wearables embedded in the innovation team there, and it was very funny because the rest of the team had come from DuPont, and they were fiber people, so they made OEM fiber. And then the other half were electrical engineers. None of these people had ever made a commercial product. They were OEM suppliers. And we were building the one system, the My Coach Elite team system. And I, as the person who had been in the commercial side of the business forever, and as a designer and a dreamer, I kept telling them, what are we doing after this? And they're like, what do you mean? We're going to perfect it. We're going to do version 1.1. I said, well, you're in a corporate environment now delivering a consumer product. They're going to want to know what's next, right? And they were like, well, we'll just keep perfecting it. I said, no. You're all going to lose your jobs if you're not thinking what's next, because they want to know there's a pipeline of ideas and concepts and to grow this business. And it seemed to be an elusive thought to them. And they were smart people, which was disappointing. So what I would do in between projects was dream. Like, what could this be? Where could it go? What could you do with the suit? What could you do with the apparel? And they made the little My Coach pod that went in to basically replace your heart rate monitor, that went in your shoe, that counted steps and did your speed and distance. And I saw that thing. I'm like, and Patrick Nielsen, who was the president at the time, was like, we need to connect to 14-year-old American boys, alternative sports people. And they don't give a crap about My Coach and running and training and all that. But I went and asked the team who was working on the pod device, like, what does this thing actually measure? And they're like, oh, it does all this. I'm like, well, why don't we use that, right? So I had this idea, like, well, it can measure all of these things, like G-forces, rotation, speed, relative location. It can broadcast all of that data to your phone or an electronic device. Why don't we embed this in a skateboard? And so I looked at the deck. I'm like, oh, you could laser cut or route a thing in the board, but how do you do that practical to the consumer at the skate shop or whatever, right? You don't have to have them running a router. So I measured the thickness of the device, and it was the exact same thickness as a 3/8 standard riser. So I created this basic, like, little tray with a drawer in it that the pod slid into. And by also putting it inside that riser, it was under the truck, so it was protected against grinds and bashing and everything. So this thing could actually measure rotation, speed, distance. And the way I thought about it was like, you could have this skateboard. Now you modify it with the simple piece that is a standard that you can get off the shelf at the skate shop, and have it transmit the data real time to your phone. Or you could have it transmit to social media, like, oh, I just did a 270 kickflip, and you could broadcast it to your friends. They'd be like, well, actually, you only did 240. But the other thing that would be kind of cool about it is it could replicate what the board was doing in an animation or a graphic. You wiped out, like, hell, dude, I just took 3 Gs when I did that grind and fell down on the ground, and it could also give you training potentially, as you try to do a kickflip, and like, you got it to this point, what could you do next to learn these tricks and things? And it just seemed to make a lot of sense to me, and it captured that non-traditional sport athlete that Adidas was trying to get after at the time. So I did a special handcrafted board, everything to go with it, and then they went and showed it in Germany. Everybody was jazzed up about it for their big ideation festival, and then they were like, yeah, we got nobody to build the app. And so that was the end of it, which kind of sucked because it was such a cool idea and a way to continue to keep that pipeline exciting of this wearables thing beyond just a soccer team. But it just goes to show, it takes these leaps of faith for innovations to take place. I mean, they had the hardware ready to go, and it was a disappointment. And the whole little pod, the Nike Plus, the Adidas My Coach, it's all kind of went the way of the Polar heart rate monitor. It's kind of sad because as a designer and an ideator, you saw this potential in what this thing could be, and its reach to make it bigger story than what it actually was. And I think a lot of these technologies that we work on hold such potential. It's just getting people to believe in it or to understand it or see where these things could go and be much more than what they are. And there's always a moment in time for innovation, and maybe it'll come back. I don't know, but I got the board at home.
Yeah, I was gonna say you should hold on to that idea. Maybe some game companies would be interested in developing that. Who knows?
Yeah, it'd be pretty cool because you see simulators. You remember somebody did like the snowboard thing that you have in your living room, but why not make it the real snowboard?
Yeah.
Now that we have so much connectivity and Bluetooth capabilities, you can really start to integrate all your sports things into this, and now it all becomes seamless of the virtual world with the real world and life and activities and sports. It starts to bring it all back out of the living room and into the world, you know?
I love that. I remember one of the last projects I worked on at VF was a project in which for Timberland, it was a Timberland Fortnite collaboration where we used Fortnite as a design tool. Right, it was way before UAFN. You had to cobble together fridges and rocks and things like that to be able to create something that looked like a shoe. And we actually used, the game as a way to experiment and explore new concepts, what we call meta boots. And it's, using non-traditional approaches and workflows to experiment and explore non-traditional outputs is possible because of these technologies, right?
You know what fascinates me? I love cars and I love car racing, and it's so cool to see things like Gran Turismo influencing the concept car world. If you follow anything to do with the concept cars, the car designers are building the cars within the virtual game environment. And then they're actually going out building the show cars. So they build like functional versions of the game cars to run at like Goodwood Festival of Speed up the hill. And I mean, that shows you the potential of what we could do even in footwear, where you can build a special version that's in the game and then you do it. You can then grade the acceptability of the design or the colorway and have people vote within the game which ones they pick most. You don't even you can do it subtle, where whatever colorway they pick, and then you make that colorway secretly, or you can earn it in the game and then the real one exists. I mean, there's so many cool opportunities to connect all these things and
to be able to go
be so much more
directly from product development into a customer environment, but never need to commercialize that product, but get so much vital, important insight by, people use their feet, don't they? They'll vote with their feet, and it can be as simple as them, picking, and you see it in the movie, you can see it daily. Because it's such a visited space in most instances, you can, the feedback that you get, and then you can feed that back into the product development stage or what you go to market with.
I think too, like the freedom that virtual and digital allows is unbound, right? Unbound by earthly physics, unbound by manufacturing constraints, and projects that we have seen, whether they're student work or interns who came in and did stuff and said, I'm going to design a shoe for this anime character or this video game character, they can go wild. And then we reset our mind as we help them through their project to be like, cool, I actually don't have to make this. And how do you get them to be free and liberated? And then you can sort of, to the point of like, well, if you do want something to connect and sell later, reverse engineer to something that's like, okay, there was a show car, and show cars never come to market looking as cool as a show car. Hopefully it's not the Pontiac Sunfire, no offense to anybody if it were a GM, but like that was a cool concept car. But anyway, okay. So yeah, I think that the liberation that happens in thinking in otherworldly like universes or metaspheres is something that can refresh a lot of energy. Because right now we're sort of stuck in a world that's challenged and is all about retros and re-releases, which is cool when you see your shoe come back. But as Steven said this morning, you're competing with your younger self. And where's the innovation and where are the things that are pushing us into the future?
That's a great segue.
Thanks.
We didn't practice this, huh?
Nope.
So yeah, I think some could argue that footwear needs a reboot. Product in general, product and experiences, understanding that you can put yourself as a brand at the intersection of product and experiences, maybe through gaming or other things. That's something that is definitely something that, we should all consider. I remember, Stephen, this morning you had an expression, was it "fuck the system"? Yeah.
Pretty much.
You need to think differently. You need to do things differently, right? What is the one thing that each one of you is the most excited about in terms of technology that kind of unlocks new possibility at the intersection of product and experience? David?
I do think that ability to accumulate data for users is important. Still 3D printing, it's still in its infancy. Getting past the plasticization of the component in the part and the product. But if you look at it, being able to 3D print molds, getting things quicker to market, having kids see it sooner, having it more fluid so that you could do rapid changes. I mean, I think of Kanye, which was very funny in some ways, is, he would drop an album and one of his rap buddies would critique it and he'd take it back, he'd pull it off the market and then remix it overnight based on their criticism. I mean, I think with a lot of the digital tools and that ability, you could do that. I mean, sometimes even if it's through the gaming, I think still scoring points in the game gets you discounts to the product that you're wearing. I think there's so many cool things. It's hard to say one thing. There's so many cool things that you could do with it. But anyway,
I'm going to go large. Large as in conceptual maybe, but I think it's super, super exciting we're at a moment in time where there's such a excitement and energy around building digitally, like not just products, but worlds, environments, because you can. It's getting easier and easier and easier to build digital environments, scaled digital environments. And we kind of talk about this future, and I don't want to say the M word, but I'm going to have to say it. We talk about this future, and we talk about the metaverse and how if we have this underlying integrated technology, then it can all come together. So I love the concept, and I think it's super exciting for IP and for brands that now, if you're bold and you're brave, you could be part of the DNA of that build, through getting your assets out there and making your assets available to creators and being part of how people turn up in these digital worlds from the very beginning. And then as these worlds develop and grow, in the same way, if you go to the center of town and you people watch, you're seeing this massive mix up of people's choices, but I bet you'll see a hell of a lot of sneakers, a hell of a lot of denim jackets, because that is part of the DNA of who we are now and how we dress. And we have the opportunity to do that in virtual worlds. And I think that's super exciting, giving creators what they need to be creative with existing assets, so that there is this makeup. We're beginning to produce this makeup and these worlds and these visuals that you kind of have no control over. Like, there's an organicness to it that I think is super exciting. And then in virtual worlds, you can sit down and you can people watch and start to see how you see these reoccurring themes. And I think that's going to be super exciting.
Andrew, you have 30 seconds.
Right in the middle. There's a lot that was said there that I totally agree with, and I think it is about the experiences, right? Coming from a brand like Vans, oftentimes when you talk to people about Vans, you're like, well, what's cool? Why Vans? If you're interviewing, why Vans? And they're like, oh, when I was a kid, my dad dropped me off at the Warped Tour, and it was a formative moment in their life, and sadly that's gone away, although it's coming back this summer for 3 stops. But the ability, as you just said, to create globally connective experiences that the brand can step into. We've partnered with Skate, with Riders Republic, with Need for Speed, and played with them and given them assets and see those come to life into the games is really neat. It's really exciting because now you're seeing what came off the digital tree, more fruit being put into different places, and even like Need for Speed, going in there and seeing how you can do your car, and you're just taking this big shape and you're scaling it over and you're color blocking it and you're adding logos and stuff. I'm like, you could have a sneaker creator and you can just do your own shoes. And then like you're saying, like consumers will be voting on it or whatever. If it's something with the brands, maybe there's like that connectiveness about how you get back to that consumer being sneaker king or something.
Thank you all. I saw some questions. Do we still have time for questions, or are we one question?
Wow.
All right, make it a good one. Okay, there we go. All right, everything's been upvoted once. I'm gonna take a leap here and say, go with the third one. How do 3D experts support artists in the gaming industry, and could the footwear industry adopt similar strategies to support designers?
Clarification, 3D experts from the gaming industry and what they do for 3D gaming and how could that help in the footwear? Is that sort of the question?
If I understand correctly,
Mm-hmm.
I think that it boils down, if you want diverse artistry to come into the gaming industry, if the gaming industry wants diverse artistry to come into the gaming industry has to make tool adoption and participation easier. So we're kind of boiling it down to the creator space and to user-generated content, and two of the biggest gaming platforms do that. Like Roblox has its creator tools, and they support them by having this wrapper around that creator space. Fortnite has its creator tools, and there's a lot of support. And pipelines are developed so that you don't have to be a AAA games company. You don't have to be a incredibly experienced UE developer, but you can still very much participate in the gaming space. And the reason we do it is to be able to leverage that incredible creativity and to support creators so there's diverse content that people want to access.
Yeah, what I read into this, and everyone may interpret it differently, but this idea of empowerment, right? Software, tools, interfaces are getting more and more intuitive and more accessible. And so if you think about tools like, for instance, MetaHuman, which is a tool that maybe 5-10 years ago a production studio would have invested millions of dollars in developing and keeping it for themselves. Now everyone can access it for free, unless you make a lot of money of it, right? So, but I think it's important to also talk about how the tools, as they are becoming more available, more accessible to the masses, encourage more creators to contribute to participants, whether they're footwear designers or game designers or find themselves at the intersection. Right, I think we are at time. Thank you so much for gracing us with your wisdom and your knowledge.